if you are struggling to lose weight, you've got to start to think about the possibility that your stress loads are too high. Now, here's the best way to look at this is I want you to think about weight from your body's perspective. I think there's this moment when we look in the mirror and we start shaming ourselves. We start thinking we're undisciplined. We think our body's working against us. But I have to tell you, your body is always working for you. And if you are in a woman's body and from a woman's body's perspective, there are two major priorities. One is to keep you alive. So your body is always going to prioritize survival. That's for both men and women. So when stress goes really high, your body thinks it's being chased by a tiger. It doesn't know that your boss just put a bunch of work on your plate. It doesn't know that you're having challenges in your marriage. Your body doesn't know that you're sitting in traffic. Each one of those chronic stress moments, when you're perceiving and taking that moment in and your brain is rejecting that, cortisol goes up. And as cortisol goes up, the body says, this is no longer a safe environment to drop weight. So stress is this huge elephant in the weight loss room, because you're going to need to be able to find some strategies to tell the body, hey, it's okay, it's safe. You're safe. We're not running from the tiger anymore. You can start burning fat. And this is a huge one. And I will tell you, in both books, I tried to give you some really sound advice on how to manage stress. And I put in there something that I love called the rushing woman syndrome. And the rushing woman syndrome is a really cool concept. I didn't come up with it. Dr. Libby Weaver came up with it. And I love it. There's a book called The Rushing Woman Syndrome. I talk about it all the time because it changed my life the moment I jumped into that book. But what was interesting about this concept around being a rushing woman is that when we are constantly on the go, when we are constantly doing too much, when we are constantly under stress, hormonally we shut down. And you have to remember that weight loss is a hormone issue, not a calorie in, calorie out issue. And so when cortisol goes up from our rushing woman lifestyle, all of a sudden you become insulin resistant. And when you're insulin resistant, now all of a sudden your sex hormones go off. So the first thing you're going to need to address is, how are you going to manage stress? And there is acute stress and there is chronic stress. If you live in this overscheduled life where you're just rushing from thing to thing to thing, the first tip I'm going to give you under the category of stress is you're going to have to slow your life down. You're going to have to create some moment in your week, in your day, where you just slow down, because you will not lose weight as long as that go, go, go mentality is present. So that would be the first thing, is let's address the rushing woman's lifestyle. And men, you're the same way. I do feel like we as women, this rushing lifestyle affects us more when it comes to weight challenges, but men, you could also fall into this category. Now, I also want to talk specifically to my menopausal women and women over 35. I used to say 40, but it appears that we're now seeing perimenopause hitting around 35. So at 35, what I want you to remember is that your ovaries are starting to wind down. And in that winding down, your ovaries are going to have to hand over the job of making sex hormones to your adrenal gland. So if your adrenals are working overtime to keep up with this rushing woman's lifestyle, all of a sudden the sex hormones get thrown off, you become insulin resistant, and you will struggle to lose weight. So let's start by reorganizing your work week. Like, reorganize it. I can tell you, I've talked about this on many podcasts. I've written about it in my books. I have a golden rule. Friday afternoons and Sundays are my rest day. And when I'm traveling, when I'm speaking at conferences, I make sure that I'm home on Sunday so I can have that down day before I start Monday. And Monday through Thursday, I pack most of my work in. And then Friday's a half day. Saturday, I do a workout with my Reset Academy that I love. It doesn't feel stressful to me. And Sundays I have off. And I've been doing that lifestyle for many, many years throughout my whole perimenopausal school years, my whole 40s, that worked tremendously well for me, to be able to have some down moment in order for my nervous system to relax, cortisol to come down, for me to become more insulin sensitive, so that I could balance those sex hormones. The second part of that rushing woman lifestyle that I really want to address is the overexerciser. And the overfaster. I'm seeing a lot of overfasters that are stuck with weight loss as I'm out in the world speaking at conferences. And it's really interesting. A lot of the women that are struggling to lose weight with fasting right now are actually, they've been fasting too much. Think about this. This is also a stressful situation. If you are pushing yourself with your exercise all the time, if you're doing one meal a day all the time, if you're pushing yourself with the extreme health habit, that's added stress. And this is what I love about living in a female body, is that our body is actually demanding that we let up on stress every once. And one of the reasons, or the ways your body will tell you it's been too long, there has been too much stress, is that it will stop losing weight. And in some situations, you will start to gain weight. I have in my clinic for so many years, I just sat in the trenches with so many women that just told me they couldn't lose weight. And a lot of them were like moms that had young children, and they weren't sleeping. They were on the go all the time. They were, taking care of everybody else but themselves. So the first part of this weight loss journey, if you are doing the 30-day fasting reset that I mapped out in Fast Like a Girl, if you are trying so hard to lose weight and you're so frustrated, I'm going to ask you to relax. Like you've got to have some downtime. And in the relaxation, your body will now know it's safe enough to be able to lose weight. So take that in for a moment. Second part of that, and I really want to say this with love and caution. A lot of you are in life situations that are no longer working for you. You're in a job that doesn't work for you. You're in a relationship that doesn't work for you. You're in situations that are incredibly dysfunctional, and you know it, and it's hard to get out of those situations. And in this dysfunction, some of you are struggling to drop weight because that situation needs to change. And I'm going to give you an example. I had a good friend who, when I first started learning the principles of fasting, was struggling to lose weight. And so I was so excited to teach her what I knew about fasting, and fasting like a girl, and cycling, fasting. And, I was really excited to share that with her. But the minute she tried to fast, she struggled. She couldn't go longer than 13 hours. She would get really dizzy. She couldn't metabolically switch. She struggled with low carb eating. And she finally came to me one day and said, I don't think it works for me. Now, I want to stop for a moment. If you're feeling like maybe your genetics is different, I want to tell you that fasting is very much like sleep. It works for everyone. You are putting yourself in a healing state. So if you are butting up against poor results, like my friend was, there may be another reason, and it may be what I'm walking through in this episode. But what shocked me about this situation with my friend, and she ate healthy, wasn't like she didn't eat healthy, was that she was in a very stressful marriage. And the minute she got out of that marriage. Okay, check this out. I have a free fasting guide for you all. It's free. And it's going to teach you all the basics of fasting. It's going to teach you how to kill hunger when you fast, which is really cool. And it's going to show you how to break your fast, among many other things. All you got to do is click on this link right here and enjoy. She started to drop weight. And it took a while. Of course, getting out of marriage is stressful. And about a year after she got out, she came to me and she said, fasting's working for me now. Now, I'm not saying go out and change your relationships, but I'm asking you, what I'm seeing so much as I'm out there talking to you all at conferences, is that so many of you are turning on yourself in that moment. You're thinking that it's your fault, that it's not working for you. So therefore you're have feelings of guilt and shame. And some of you are boomeranging back into food to try to get that dopamine rush because you're saying horrible things to yourself. And when it comes to weight loss, we have to remember that you cannot lose weight when chronic stress is around. Now, many of us have experienced acute stress where something traumatic happens and all of a sudden we drop a whole bunch of weight. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about chronic, everyday, go stress mixed with situations in your life that are no longer working for you. Now, I can tell you a couple of interesting things I've done with stress. One is walking has become a major stress tool for me, mindfulness tool. And let's talk about that for a moment. It's a really cool tool because what can happen is when a stressful moment hits, the worst thing you can do for weight loss is to sit. What you want to do when stress hits is go walk, go move, use that cortisol. So you can do air squats, you can go for a walk. But if you stay sitting when stress hits, that cortisol is going to be turned to fat. And where most of that fat goes to is around your belly. So during the pandemic, I walked 3, 4, 5 times a day. Every time I panicked and I was like, what's going to happen? Am I going to be able to pay my employees? How is this all going to shake out? And I could feel the cortisol coming in. I went for a walk so I could use that cortisol, not store it. So please know that when stress hits, walking's probably one of your best tools. You've got to give to yourself first. And this is something that I figured out when I was in my early 40s. I watched 2 really close friends dramatically change their lives by moving out of my town, which really upset me. I'm not gonna lie, it was really, really sad. But what I saw happen, because they were my best friends, is that when they moved to a different city, it created this pattern interrupt to their life. And all of a sudden, they started to see things different. They started to see their marriage different. They started to interact with their kids different. Dopamine loves novelty. So every day was exciting and they were exploring a new town, and it cut that stress moment. And they were able to rebuild the way they wanted their life to be. They were able to create more balance between stressful moments and non-stressful moments. And I watched this and I thought to myself, well, I'm not leaving my town. I've lived in the same house for 20 years. I wasn't leaving. I had a practice I wasn't leaving. So what could I do to create a pattern and interrupt for myself? So what I did is I totally changed the flow of my day. I stopped going to bed late. I went to bed early. I got up at 5 in the morning and I gave to myself for 2 hours before I did anything else. I got up and I meditated. I listened to music. I listened to podcasts that inspired me. And I would read something inspirational, like I would work out. Everything I did in those first 2 hours of the day was to give to me. So what I found happened in that moment is because I gave to me first, that throughout the day, that part of my brain was no longer saying nobody takes care of me. And a lot of us, especially women, we have that. We have that syndrome of I'm doing something for everybody. Somebody needs to do something for me. If that's your thinking, you need to give to yourself first. And so what happened to me is that because I gave to myself first, because I filled up my bucket first, as I moved around my day, those things in my head, people aren't giving to me, people don't understand me, I never have time for me, all those one-liners that I was saying to myself completely went away because I gave to myself first. Okay, if you loved this video, you're gonna wanna check out the next video of my food series. 5 foods that will sabotage weight loss. And they're gonna surprise you. These are ones that you're probably doing thinking they're helping you lose weight.